Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk about new tricks that we can teach our eyes to improve our photography. Robert Frank has a quote that says something like this: "The eye should learn to listen before it looks." Now I want to take this in a certain direction. I believe that a camera, right, with the lens, of course, is an extension of our body. And what does that mean? Well, no different than, for example, a sword would be an extension of our body if we were martial artists, right? If you want a little further reach, right, in combat, you use a sword because it's an extension of your body. It does what the hand can do, but a little further out, right? So, and in many times, depending on how sharp it is, it does different things in the hand, right? But the point here is that it's an extension of our body. So what does it mean for photography, for us as photographers, if our camera is an extension of ourselves? So let's look at it this way. Let's look for similarities between ourselves and the camera, right? This is where we're going with this, right? Teaching ourselves new tricks. These are actually tricks that we were born to do, but that we forgot to do as photographers, because we have this camera that's an extension of our body. So when we look at the similarities between our cameras and ourselves, I have 3 words written down: pan, zoom, and macro. I'm a little stuffed up, so I apologize if it's coming across, like I am, because there's nothing I can do about it right now. It's been cold, and we're all fighting this around the country, right? So pan, zoom, and macro. What I'm saying here is the camera pans, it zooms, and it can macro when it gets really close to something, depending on the lens you have. We can do the same thing. The problem for us as photographers is that the minute we bought this really fancy camera that does these things for us and so much more, we stopped doing them ourselves. Now you might say, Juan, what are you talking about? I grab my camera and I pan. I'm panning. I zoom. I'm zooming. I'm macroing, right? No, that's the camera doing that, right? Yes, the camera's in your hand. What I mean is, before that camera ever comes up to your face, are you panning enough? Are you zooming? And are you macroing? And we can add to that, not just are you zooming, are you widening the view where you need to as well, right? And then are we macroing? So macroing, if that's even a word, right? Are we applying macro, right, without a camera? Let's see what that means. For macro, what I'm saying is, many times we're walking, we see something we like. Now I'm not talking about a building, right? Because you can't macro a building, but we stop to see a bunch of flowers. The first thing we do is we grab our camera and we shoot the flowers, right? We all do it. And there's nothing wrong with that. We know that the camera has the ability to macro, right? But even before that camera comes up to our face, walk up to it. There are pictures that we can take that we weren't expecting. Sometimes just by walking up to a bunch of flowers and looking inside of the flowers. This example is a picture I took at Gibbs Gardens here in North Georgia. I was walking with a friend, and we were both taking pictures of a bunch of flowers. And I decided to get close to the flowers, and I looked inside, and the little critter was eating away, having a blast, having a great time. And I wouldn't have caught that flower if I stayed back, right? This is what I mean by macroing. You're looking at a cool pattern on the sidewalk, right? It has some cracks. Get on your knees and check to see if there's anything interesting in those cracks, right? You might get a little daisy or something growing out with a building in the background if you're walking around in the city, for example. So you know where I'm going with this, right? I don't want to beat a dead horse. I want to make this video short, pleasant. The point is, when we see things, we have to learn to macro. Get in close for things that allow it. Get in close to see, is there anything there, right? We see a little turtle, even in somebody's, pet tank in their home, right? Get in close to see if there's a cool pattern on the shell that we don't see from a distance. Right? There's so many cool things that we just have to get close to appreciate. So macro. Then you can take your camera and you can perform the macro. Pan is next. We've all been in beautiful places, right? Sometimes the neighborhoods where we live are beautiful. And we've probably taken pictures of some of that stuff already. If I go on a camping trip and I'm looking at a beach, right, on the other side of the mountain where I'm camping, I take my camera out, I take a picture, right? Do I stop before even doing that to go, there's the mountain, there's the beach. Maybe the combination of the two is something really cool. Here's the beach, here's the mountain. But there is a restaurant, and the sun's going down, and the lights are all on, and that would make a really cool picture, right? So we have to pan, not just to see what is pretty, but panning to the point where we're just moving our entire body around, right? I may see, actually, I was walking in a cemetery here in Atlanta. It's called the Oakland Cemetery, one of the oldest in the East Coast. And there was a beautiful stone, one of those, the people are buried under, right? Like an angel or something like that, holding a sword. Beautiful, right? And I'm about to take this picture, and I think I did take the picture, right? Luckily, with digital, that's a lot easier now. With film, you have to think twice. But I took the picture, and then I asked myself, is there a better place to take the picture from? So now I'm not even looking for something to take a picture of, right? Panning to see if there's something cool around me, but I'm panning to see if there's a better place to take the picture from. You see that difference, right? When we pan with the camera, we're panning for a better shot. When we pan without bringing that camera to our face, we're panning for a better shot or for a better angle. So I looked behind me, and I noticed there were some daisies, and this is real, some daisies on the ground by some bricks. And I went, ooh. So I got on the floor, completely flat on the floor, and I shot this through the daisies. I noticed that there was a better place to shoot from. I could lay completely flat on the ground and shoot what I was already going to shoot through the daisies. And I just thought it was a cool shot, because it was different. It wasn't the same shot that everybody was taking. I was there with a group of photographers. We were all walking around together. We were all taking the same pictures. When you do something like that, it doesn't stop another photographer from doing it. It doesn't matter, because you thought about it first, right? Don't get upset about stuff like that. It doesn't matter. And it's going to come out different too, because you're both laying in slightly different spots, right? So don't let stuff like that bother you. You were the creator of the concept. Be proud. Lastly, from these three, and there's probably other stuff that the camera can do that we can do. I just want to focus on these three because they're quick, they're easy, they're popular. So we're talking about zoom now. And like I said earlier, zoom or widen, right? They both apply here, but I just named it zoom. Landscape photography is very popular, right? And one of the things we do when we go out, when we set out to do landscape photography, is we already know the lens we're going to take. We're either a fan of the 24 millimeter or a fan of the 35. And now there's that hybrid, the 28, which is kind of what new street photography cameras like the Leica Q3 and so on, the Fuji X100V, is that? I was confused because I haven't seen it in a while. But you know, the X100 series, right? Comes with a fixed lens that it's equivalent. That's a crop mode, so it's equivalent to like either a 28 or 24 or whatever, right? So we already know what our favorite landscape, lens is, and if it's a prime, even better. Pictures are going to be nice and sharp, right? My brother gave me this lens we're shooting with, the 35 millimeter f1.4. It's a L series lens from Canon. Beautiful, beautiful lens. Great for landscapes, right? Some people think it's too close. They prefer the 24. I also have a 24 1.4. And then we go. And we shoot all our landscapes the same way. Not bad, right? Because if you have a high resolution camera, you can crop in a little later on the computer and say, well, I don't need this big wide landscape. Let me crop in over here. But this is where I argue. Put the camera down, look around, right? A little more panning, and then determine if there's a part of that landscape that would look nice if you just zoomed in on it. I guarantee you there will be. I'm presenting a picture here to you that I took of New York City from Hoboken, New Jersey on the 4th of July, 2023. And I was there with my family and my brother and a dear friend of ours. And We were waiting for the fireworks, really. But I took advantage of the, time of day, and I took some pretty shots. And the lens I had on was really wide, right? It was a street photography camera. It wasn't a fancy, it wasn't my Fuji 100 megapixel camera or anything like that, right? It was a simple Canon M6 Mark II, 32 megapixel crop sensor, and I had like a 22 millimeter pancake lens, which is equivalent to like a 35. And it just grabbed way too much, right? So I swapped it out for another lens, and I got closer to my subject. And this is what you end up doing when you do stuff like that, right? You don't just take it for granted. I'm a landscape photographer and I'm shooting a landscape. Yeah, but if you're shooting, like a mountainside, for example, you can zoom in and get the texture of the mountain, the rocks. Now you're looking at a completely different picture. It might even be an abstract, right? With the sun hitting it from an angle, creating all these shadows. And you turn that into black and white and you hang that up, and people are going to go, wow, that's beautiful. What is that? It's the side of a mountain, right? Yeah, it was part of your landscape. It would have been the mountain and the trees and the sky and the lake, but you zoomed in and you got that abstract, right? You can do so much that way, or vice versa, right? I've seen photographers that shoot landscapes. They love 50 millimeter, right? And 50 millimeter is a wonderful lens. It's that aperture that lets you see what the eye sees, more or less, right? So they love 50 millimeter, and a cheap 50 millimeter lens will still open to 1.8, right? The nifty 50. So you can do miracles with a lens like that. And other photographers like the 85 millimeter, and they'll use that famous 85 millimeter 1.2 portrait lens to go out and shoot landscapes because they prefer getting a little closer. To them, I say, when you get out there, look through that lens, yes, and see, oh my God, this is a beautiful picture. Take it, take the beautiful picture, and then step back and go, is there a wider scene that would mean something to me right now, right? And if there is, then put a wider lens on there, right? So zoom in, pan out. I don't mean it as panning, but zoom out, I guess I should say, and look at things differently. That's all. That's all we have to do. So that was my small video today for reteaching ourselves to do the simple things that our cameras do for us and that we now take for granted because the camera does it for us, right? Put the camera down. I'm going to include a video in the link from Canon. It's a beautiful video of a bunch of photographers that went to a cemetery. Funny that, we're talking about cemeteries. And they talked about composing a picture before the camera ever comes into the story. They went out to the cemetery and they didn't even have cameras. They were using their hands, looking at things, right? They were composing shots and talking about what it meant to them to be out there without a camera, right? How they looked at things and how they saw things differently. So keep that in mind going forward, right? I didn't take a water break today. Never stop hydrating yourselves. It's winter time. You may be seeing this video later in the summer. Good time to hydrate yourself as well, right? It's always a good time to hydrate yourself. Keeps you healthy. I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for your time. I love you guys. I'm so happy to be back. I hope that your year has started off strong and that you got tons of plans for 2024 and that they all come to fruition. From the bottom of my heart, ciao for now.